Hitler should have died long before his suicide in 1945. Unfortunately for many millions of people, that did not happen. Despite numerous assassination attempts, he remained alive. Criminal faces against Hitler. The first assassination attempt on Hitler is considered to be a brawl with shooting at the Hofbrauhaus beer hall. It happened in October 1921. The future Fuhrer of the German nation was speaking there to his then small group of supporters. Some attendees did not like it. Fists were thrown. Then shots were fired at Adolf, who was then still known as Schicklgruber. But he was unharmed and continued his speech for another 20 minutes until the police arrived and took everyone to the station. The police against Hitler. In 1923, in the splendid Bavarian city of Munich, 2,000 Nazi supporters, after a fiery speech by Hitler in the vast hall of the Bürgerbraukeller, marched toward the city center. Hitler and other Nazis led the way. Hitler, it must be admitted, was not a coward. Trucks loaded with policemen and Reichswehr soldiers blocked their path. A brief, muddled speech by the future Führer did not persuade the police and soldiers to join the Nazis. The first shots rang out, leading to chaotic gunfire. People around Hitler fell, struck down by police bullets. Hitler remained unscathed. Thus began the myth of his invulnerability to fulfill a historical mission. Maurice Bavaud against Hitler, 1938. Swiss Maurice Bavaud, horrified by the Nazis' rise to power and their future plans as outlined in official speeches, decided to act. After purchasing a pistol on the black market, he began practicing shooting and became a decent marksman. The day he had lived for the past 2 years arrived, the anniversary of the beer hall putsch. Among the spectators in a vast Munich beer hall, he gripped the ribbed handle of his Walther pistol with sweaty fingers. He was ready, but hundreds of hands, frantically raised in the Nazi salute, blocked his view of the target, Hitler. Soon he was arrested, and after a month of daily beatings, he was executed in the courtyard of a Munich prison. Carpenter Georg Elser against Hitler, 1939. Both the Gestapo torturers who interrogated him and many researchers after the war refused to believe that Georg Elser had attempted to assassinate Hitler alone. But as it is known, the truth is not complicated, therefore it is even more incredible. Elser, a master craftsman, worked as a carpenter. While employed at the famous Munich beer hall, he spent 30 nights installing a homemade bomb into the wooden paneling of a column where Hitler would speak, as always, on the anniversary of the beer hall putsch. From interrogation records found in the 1960s, his words are known. Every sound had to be muffled, every speck of dust had to be removed. Every sound in the vast empty hall echoed thunderously. I worked like a sapper, quietly and carefully. To silence the mechanism of the already installed bomb, it was placed in a corkwood casing. Elser's timing was precise, but that day, Hitler, hurrying to a meeting with generals in Berlin, finished his speech earlier than usual and quickly left. The explosion killed 8 people. The ceiling collapsed over the Führer's speaking spot. The Wehrmacht against Hitler, 1943. After Hitler's visit to the Eastern Front headquarters in Smolensk, conspirators among staff officers handed a bomb disguised as cognac bottles to Hitler's adjutant. But it did not explode. The detonator malfunctioned due to pressure drops during the ascent. Instead of exploding 20 minutes after takeoff, the plane landed safely in Berlin. Axel von dem Busch, an exemplary German against Hitler, 1943. A 2-meter-tall blonde with blue eyes, the ideal Aryan in the Nazis' view, Axel von dem Busch was ready to blow himself up along with Hitler to save Germany from the abyss of catastrophe into which the maniacal Führer was leading it. This was to happen during a demonstration of new winter uniforms for the Wehrmacht and SS. But the wagons with the uniforms were bombed by the Allies, and the actual attempt failed. Axel wanted to try again, but in January 1944, he was severely wounded and lost a leg. A General against Hitler, 1944. General Rudolf von Gersdorf, who did not arouse suspicion among Hitler's entourage, was supposed to sacrifice himself by detonating a bomb hidden under his clothes, getting as close as possible to the Nazi number 1. This was to happen in the Berlin Zeughaus during the inspection of equipment captured from the Russians. Pale from nervous tension and fear but determined, von Gersdorf already had his hand on the switch inside his coat. But the erratic and impulsive Fuhrer suddenly rushed to the platform where the Russian tanks were. The general could not get through the guards. Sacrificing himself no longer made sense. A desperate Captain Breitenbuch against Hitler, 1944. There were also almost anecdotal assassination attempts. Captain Breitenbuch, invited to a meeting where the Fuhrer was to be present, intended to shoot him with a pistol. Knowing that the officers of Hitler's guard thoroughly searched everyone at the entrance, the captain was so nervous that while trying to pull the pistol from his pocket before entering the meeting room, he shot himself in the leg. His fate, after falling into the hands of the Gestapo, was unenviable. Klaus von Stauffenberg against Hitler, 1944. Perhaps the most famous assassination attempt on Adolf. Colonel Stauffenberg and a host of senior Wehrmacht officers. A bomb prepared by participants in a rather extensive conspiracy was carried by Colonel Stauffenberg in a briefcase, which he activated and immediately left Hitler's headquarters under a plausible pretext. But once again, Hitler was devilishly lucky. Someone among the staff inadvertently pushed the briefcase under the oak table. Its lid saved Hitler. There were many dead and wounded, but the Fuhrer only suffered a slight concussion. Stauffenberg and other conspirators faced torture and a terrible execution. They were hanged with piano strings. The SS butchers were devilishly inventive. The unlucky one against Hitler, our days. The only successful assassination happened at Madame Tussauds Museum in Berlin. The Fuhrer was finally beheaded. More precisely, his wax sculpture was beheaded. This occurred in 2008. The execution was carried out by a 40-year-old unemployed Berliner, as he said, so that there would never be another war like the one Hitler started.